I was about to go to bed, and then I just completely randomly saw that Blake's side replied to Justin releasing this footage, this video footage. I am going to speak. This is a personal video. Are we being gaslit by her team? Because that's how it feels like. At this point with this statement, I'm seriously asking that question. It is not the technical term, but you know what I mean, like the way that we use gaslight. Are we being that manipulated? But like that's the question that I just keep I want someone to answer me. Like I'm curious what everyone on YouTube is going to say in reaction to what they said. I feel completely gaslit and I feel very offended by this latest reply of theirs. And I didn't feel offended before. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound great. It's not looking great. There's a video from a therapist that works with victims. I'll link that below. So I'm going to read. I'll link this article below. This is the one I found. This is a quote. Justin Baldoni and his lawyer may hope that this latest stunt will get ahead of the damaging evidence against him. But the video itself is damning. Every frame of the released footage corroborates to the letter. Pay attention to that one. To the letter, what Miss Lively described in paragraph 48 of her complaint. Also, is she not married? Video shows Mr. Baldoni repeatedly leaning in towards Miss Lively, attempting to kiss her, kissing her forehead, rubbing his face and mouth against her neck, flicking her lip with his thumb, caressing her, telling her how good she smells, and talking with her out of character. Every moment of this was improvised by Mr. Baldoni, with no discussion or consent in advance and no intimacy coordinator present. Baldoni's team needs to present proof of intimacy coordinator. Were they there? Also, was this discussed? Yeah, I think they do need to get those receipts because this will come out probably a lot if they release footage. They also note that Baldoni was the one in position of power. False. Not only was he her co-star, but the film's director, the head of Wayfair, and hence her boss. Misleading. Completely misleading. Completely misleading. They are so playing us. The video shows Miss Lively leaning away and repeatedly asking for the characters to just talk. Any woman who... This made my blood boil. Any woman who has been inappropriately touched in the workplace will recognize Miss Lively's discomfort. They will recognize her attempts at levity to try to deflect the unwanted touching. No woman should have to take defensive measures to avoid being touched by their employer without their consent, said her attorneys. This matter is in active litigation in federal court. Releasing this video to the media rather than presenting it as evidence in court is another example of an unethical attempt to manipulate the public. It is also a continuation of their harassment and retaliatory campaign. And this part is why this is another part why I'm making this video. While they are focused on misleading media narratives, we are focused on the legal process. We are continuing our efforts to require Mr. Baldoni and his associates to answer in court under oath rather than through manufactured media stunts. I read this a little differently the first time, I will have to admit. I think what they mean is we're not releasing anything, we're just sending this to court. How convenient, because they started it. Let's remember who leaked the initial complaint to the public. They started it. They don't want to finish it in public. What does that tell you? That's number one. I will get to the personal part, the workplace stuff. I will get to that. While they are focused on misleading media narratives, who focuses on misleading media narratives? Aren't they the ones that keep answering right away? If you're focused on the legal process, why are you answering to this? I mean, they're allowed legally, but why are you answering to this? You're literally saying what you're doing and pointing it like, no, he's doing what we're doing. How are they only focused on the legal process then rather than manufactured media stunts, which, again, that's how it all started? They have not responded with anything other than trashing him, making claims with zero proof is what I really mean. The other part, it corroborates to the letter. That is a literal lie, because that's exactly what it didn't do. That's exactly what everyone's pointing out, that it exactly didn't do that. Yes, there were things that happened, but she, like the text messages, put them together at different times and made them sound like something else. She failed to mention that. Not hold on. This is like just inaccurate. Every single word of this paragraph, I feel. Not exactly, but okay, give them benefit of the doubt. But they said to the letter, they said everything in here is exactly as described. And this is exactly, literally false. You can see it on the tape. He said, it smells good, referring to her body spray tan and so forth that she mentioned. Like, hey, sorry, literally with that tone of voice. None of this was remotely in character or based on any dialogue in the script. True. It was a montage. And nothing needed to be said because, again, there was no sound. Mr. Baldoni was caressing Mr. Lively. They messed this up so many times. They called him Miss Baldoni, now Mr. Lively. I didn't even recognize this. This was a bad. Whoever wrote this paragraph, you did bad. The point that really made me speak up, considering that they might have evidence, they might point to some things that, hey, here's our proof, here's this, whatever. Although it seems like they want to hide behind the legal system now that they're in trouble, now that they have to show proof and all that stuff. Before I go into the workplace stuff, didn't they just play on women's emotions? Didn't they perform a media stunt? Did they provide any kind of proof? No. It is one of the most disgusting things to rope in other women and to play to women's or men, but this is a case about that, and to play to women's personal experiences, because that people who have not done their work, and which is a hard work, who are maybe still in situations like this, etc., 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 you are causing them a lot of issues with this. This is not fair. They're skewing facts, they're misleading the audience, and they're playing at people's emotions and people's traumas to get them on their side. And it is a very gross, disgusting way that they're doing it. Because based on even her personal complaint, the people that they're referencing, that they are calling to, there's a word that dog dog whistle. I'm sorry. That's what they're doing. Well, it's more than, a dog whistle. This is like a full on blowhorn. But is the blowhorn thing? Okay, I need to go to sleep. The thing that really got to me, and I've not really felt personally attached to this until this moment reading this statement. And when they say any woman who has been inappropriately touched in the workplace will recognize Miss Lively's discomfort, they will recognize, the other part too, but that specific phrase, the moment that I read that, they lost me. They didn't lose me. I'm still very open to, because just because they say crap like this doesn't mean she's not saying the truth and all that. But that crap, I can't even describe the offensiveness of that phrase. This woman in a position of high power, which they mislead the audience to believe that he had the power, but he didn't have the power. Even in the scene, you can see that he didn't have the power. He couldn't hold on to his role as the director. She was directing. You could see it in literally, they just proved his point, saying that he was the one in position of power. He literally had no command on his set when it came to her. He was struggling to get what he needed from that scene. Tell me, how is that commanding power? But the part with the women in the workplace, I've been there. I am one of those women. I've had that happen in the past. I've had it happen in a very gross way, but there's inappropriate comments or whatever. I've had that happen. It is so offensive for them to relate this to this video especially, as a whole, maybe that happened, But they're saying to this specific video, nothing like that was shown. She looked uncomfortable at some scenes. That is not, and I want to make this very clear that we do not know why she was uncomfortable. To some people, she looked annoyed. To some people, she looked uncomfortable because of this. It's very biased based on your viewpoints. I recognize that there were like two parts, two moments. One, it seemed like she was uncomfortable because she didn't get her way, you could say. I don't know. I don't really want to say because I don't remember the footage right now. I check out that video where I reacted. I don't want to say one way or another right now because I don't remember. But I remember that was one of my reactions, one of my thoughts. She could be uncomfortable because she's uncomfortable with intimacy. She could be uncomfortable because something happened before their shooting that was inappropriate or she felt uncomfortable with, etc., etc., etc. Also, just because you're uncomfortable does not mean that you're being in any form like harassed. And that's also something to point out. The delusion of her privilege, of her power, and not even just her stardom power, but just how she was commanding her director on his set. The delusion of her safety. And that's a big one. And again, I'll come out and say that I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but I just see someone who is in such a strong position of power, who is in so much control. She can be uncomfortable. She can also mislead and use things and use you, use me, use the public to get the things that she wanted. But again, as someone who has been there, it grossed me out that this is what they said. Because no, you do not see that for a fact in this video. You do not see anything that they claim for a fact in this video except for things that were spliced and diced. Again, you see him start out in character. You see her not start out in character. From a personal note, and this is, unless something else comes out that hits me personally, I'll address that, but I won't take this with me in the next reactions of the next things that come out if anything else comes out. So to finally address it, finally put a final and bookend to this personal reaction as someone who's been there, and not everyone's experience is the same and not everyone's reaction is the same, etc., etc. It is such a gross tactic to use, even if what she's saying is true, although we saw that there are so many holes in what she was saying, and that makes it even worse. You will not drag me into this. You, I hope, will not drag many of the victims into this. This is your battle, and it is a very different one than almost all of those victims. And I hope they see it. I hope they see it. I just needed to say that.